Hey guys, Brian Stevens here with the National Real Estate Post. I have a good friend of mine, Jen Connolly, great loan officer in Ohio.
I'm in Chillicothe, Ohio.
Population 20,000?
22,000. Yep. Yeah.
Hey, listen, guys, we have a crazy story for you. And it's not a unique story. Frankly, this is happening all across the mortgage landscape as we speak today. Something that Jen and I both said, I kind of feel like we're repeating something that feels very familiar to 2008. And I think we're smack dab in the middle of it. But let's just get this whole thing going right now. We're talking about HomeTown lenders, with the CEO, William Taylor. Now, here's what we have. In Alabama, so far, California, Georgia, Kentucky, Maine, Montana, and Washington, there's been cease and desist and revocations that have been filed against the company and the individual. Jen, how did we get here? And this is a crazy story.
So I worked there for 10 and a half years. If anybody that is watching this knows me, knows I was a huge advocate. I was friends with him, friends with a lot of the executives, and I'm not 100% sure how we got here, but I know that where we're at is a really bad place for a lot of employees and a lot of consumers. And so that is what, to me, feels like very reminiscent of 2008. So, obviously, like everybody else in 22, when margin just disappeared like overnight. It felt like overnight anyway. It happened to everybody, and it happened to the company as well, because margins dried up for them too. And, we got into a position where people needed to make cuts in their branches. And I think that didn't happen for a lot of people for whatever reason. They did or didn't do it. And I think that then progressed. No one thought it was going to last this long, right? Like, we had multiple calls at the beginning of this, we had industry leaders in meetings with us, and they would say, in 90 days, it's going to be a little better. Well, then, 90 days was 180 days, and then was 365 days. And then here we are, a year and a half later, we're still here. So I don't think anybody thought it would last this long. And so I think that they tried to make some changes and didn't make enough, or make them quickly enough. And I think that he just again, this is all my guesstimation, but I think it just got into a situation where he felt like he had to do things that he maybe wouldn't have normally done.
All right, let's talk about some of those things. What did he do?
What I know that happened to me is that we had payroll that was not paid. So I'm due payroll. We had, and my people were owed some payroll. We had our 401k contributions were not made. And I'm not talking about the match. I'm talking about the money that came from my paycheck. So my money was not put into my 401k. Some of us had a deferred comp. The money that was taken from my check for the deferred comp was not put into my deferred comp account. Bills were not paid, which, there was a National Mortgage News article about that. So that's like that common knowledge. So that happens frequently. People would go to have their insurance. They would go to a doctor's appointment and their insurance wouldn't go through. So insurance I know for a while it was being paid late, is what we were told. So I think that at some point, though, some of that wasn't paid. Didn't have the benefits, so I'm not sure, because my husband carries those, but there was a gap insurance that they had, and vision, I think, that was canceled back in February, but yet it still came out of people's paycheck.
Okay, so he wasn't appropriately downsizing and cutting costs, but at the same time, he wasn't paying what he was required to pay, legally required to pay. And these are big issues. You're talking about your 401k money from your checks.
Yes, not the man.
That's where it started. But then this whole thing started to really get crazy and insidious. Can we talk about what took place on some of these loans?
Sure. So if you look at the Alabama revocation. So I guess I got to a point, and I can talk about this because this was my personal conversation, where I said it needs to be shut down. So I left at the end of August, and it was somewhere in August. I said, you're hurting people and you need to shut it down. And so that fell on deaf ears. And so I got super, super frustrated, and I left at the end of August. And then early September, I contacted the state of Alabama. Not because let's go back to money for 1 second. There were also quite a few managers that gave money to help make payroll and to pay bills. I was one of those people. There were several others. Some have filed lawsuits already. Some haven't yet. I don't know what they're going to do. So those people we gave cash to him to help run the company. I didn't even care about that when I called the state of Alabama, though, because I just wanted him stopped. Because for me, I'm a salesperson, right? So I made it through the crash. It was not fun. It was not comfortable. I met you in 2010. So it was still bad when I met you. But I can sell something, right? Even if I can't sell a mortgage, I'll go find something to sell. I'll sell pencils. I'll sell something. So so much worry about branch managers, loan officers. We can always find something to sell if you're a good salesperson. But the ops people that were being hurt by holding on, and then they started not paying them as well, they were going to have a hard time finding a job, right? Because it's hard. There's been massive layoffs. And so all these people were holding on, being told it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I've got this money coming, which he's probably March, April, started telling us that he's got this money, he's got that money. And I believed it too, for several months. I wanted him stopped for that. And that's what I asked the state of Alabama to do. I was like, I just want you to stop him from hurting people. So when I called, that was my intent, was to get him shut down, just to stop hurting people. And like we went through, and I told him this too. Again, these are all personal conversations I had. I said, I've seen this before. I've been through this before. So you get to a point, and it's a point of no return. And he was not very happy with me saying that. He said, we're different people. You don't know. I said, no, there's math is math, right?
Okay.
And numbers are numbers.
But when you say,
well, you get into.
When you said he was hurting people, so you gave him, not only was he not paying you or paying your employees or paying rents, he stopped paying staff.
Correct.
All the while this was taking place, he was promising funds were coming in. You were one of the people who actually participated and gave funds to the cause because you believed in it,
Correct.
but were subsequently lost. My understanding is he was also hitting up other loan officers. I think here's the big point, Jen, I'd like you to talk about is when the outcome was obvious and inevitable, he continued taking money, all the while not using that money to cover the cost of payroll and the human cost and experience that's taking place. I think that's kind of what you're saying, right? Yeah,
I mean, it got to a point, it was after I left. I think I missed 2 payrolls, and some people missed a lot more than that. I think I have 2 missed payrolls. My people didn't get their bonuses. They didn't get their PTO time paid out. And honestly, we were one of the less hurt people, to be quite honest.
Okay.
So a lot of branches went a lot longer than that without being paid. I think 1 or 2 payrolls for corporate people didn't get paid. Okay. Whatever. So, it just, at some point you have to put your ego to the side. And, we're all salespeople, right? And we all have egos. But at some point you have to realize what you're doing. And I know I wasn't the only person that told him, you've got to stop. Again, let's go back to the beginning. I was Brian, a very, very strong advocate for HomeTown. Very strong advocate for over 10 years. But when I realized how bad it was, I did not say that. I stopped saying it's going to be okay. And I started telling people to find jobs. So, but there were some people that didn't. And there were some loan officers that didn't. They continued to give money and get on meetings and tell people that it was going to be okay and just hold on. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I've been broke and I've lived paycheck to paycheck, and people are counting on that money. And listen, one thing, and I've said this, loan offers, we have an opportunity to make a lot of money, and a lot of us don't always manage that well. And so I went through the crash. I lost everything. I'm totally open about that. Everybody knows my story, knows it. And I said, I'll never do that again. So I've made sure that I had money to live on. But that's not everybody's story. But, he and I had private conversations long before that I said, and we were talking about managers and loan officers, right? Branch managers, loan officers. They should have money put back. That tried to get turned on me of, well, that you're the one that said that if they miss 1 payroll, that's not my fault. I was like, no. I was talking about loan officers that have made millions of dollars, saying that they can't eat. If you make millions of dollars and you can't eat, now that's a one thing. But if you're making 50 grand, 40 grand a year, and you're living paycheck to paycheck, that's a normal American. So I think that was lost sight of. Is that everybody in this industry does not make the money that loan officers and branch managers and executives make.
Right. So let's kind of move the story forward. So he's not paying his bills. He's hurting all the wrong people. He's taking cash from loan officers. Now you find out in a conversation that we had that you're talking to some of your clients who are saying, hey, listen, I need to make my house payment right now, and I can't make that payment. Why could your clients not make their house payments, Jen?
So if you go to the Alabama revocation, it's all listed there. There were 2 corporate employees that testified under oath that MIP was not being paid on a vast number of loans.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So what that means for the people in this industry that don't know how it works, that should, because there's a lot of them, you can't get those loans insured with HUD. So then they can't sell those loans.
Because he was stealing the MIP, correct?
The money was being used for other things, yes.
So the MIP
is my assumption, right? Like, so they testified, if you read it, they testified that that money was being used, that they were asking, specifically the post-closing manager said, I was asking for money for MIP, and I was being told that they didn't have it. Now that money is collected at closing. So you have a warehouse line, they fund your loan, that money goes to your title then sends that back, or they short fund those with the money. So they had the money from the warehouse line, but it was not sent to HUD.
The money was collected and the money was reallocated for other purposes other than being sent.
Allegedly, right?
Allegedly. It's pretty safe because here's the problem. Now that money wasn't paid allegedly, and now that money was repurposed for something other than what it was intended for, allegedly, you have a loan that is, you can no longer get off your lines. You can no longer get servicing for these loans. And if you can't get servicing for the loan because the MIP has been stolen, allegedly, it leaves your client without a servicer and without a payment coupon. Is that correct?
Yes, I have 19 people.
19.
I have 19. I know people that have more than that. I have 19 people that their loans were not sold. So they, if you're on my side on secondary or in a banker retail, not a retail model, but a lender model, you get 2 or 3 coupons at the beginning, when you close your loan. And so sometimes you'll make 1 payment, maybe 2 while you're trying to get it sold. But these people it's been months. And so the website has been down. It was down, then it was back up. Now it's down again. Nobody was answering the phone. I mean, this is all, if you do any research at all, you'll find that consumers saying it. If you go onto their social media that's still up, there are clients saying that they can't get anyone to answer the phone. So I contacted the state of Ohio because I had that problem. And so they stepped in and started trying to help get that work, moving again. And they've been great to work with. And listen, the state regulators have been nothing short of amazing. They have been so helpful, and they want to help consumers, and they're trying, but they have to jump through their hoops.
They want to help consumers by holding William Taylor of HomeTown accountable,
right?
Allegedly stealing money from these loans to make them unserviceable, and we're talking a lot of money, while at the same time stealing from his loan officers, not paying his staff, and running around like the minister of propaganda on the roof during the Iraqi war, saying, "Oh no, we're winning this thing," acting like a lunatic, but playing a game of everything is all right. When not only is it not all right, but this burning is the building is on fire, and you're trying to put it out with gasoline bad. Why is he not in jail right now? Well, honestly, why is he not in jail right now?
Your guess is as good as mine. I know that I have, and multiple other people have contacted federal regulators. Again, state regulators have been very helpful. The ones I've spoken to anyway have been very helpful. But federal regulators and I know there's a lot of bureaucracy, but man, I know somebody that called it back in April or May, and I've called myself to those regulators, and I know it's a big monster, right? It's the elephant in the room trying to get that moving, but I just don't get it. Like, so as a manager, if you're a manager and you're watching this, you know that you're always talking, compliance, and your company attorneys are talking about, pay a minimum wage and employment law, and you can't do this and you can't do that. HR said this and HR said that. Don't tell somebody they can't have purple hair, or we'll get in trouble with the DOL or whoever. I'm like, there are all these laws, right? But here is as an instance of people being harmed, and as far as I know, nothing happening. And I know you can't make money where there's no money to give, right? But still, there's got to be something. You can't just get away with stealing people's. If I came into your house and stole your checkbook and wrote checks, or I came into your house and I got in your safe and I took money, I would go to jail.
Here's the thing is, like, I'm all for theft. I'm all for it, 100%. No, seriously, hear me out. But if you're going to steal, don't make it personal. That's not a good idea. But if you're going to steal, have a reasonable expectation of getting away with it. I can understand. Okay, I see where you kind of thought this might have worked and it didn't, but I applaud the effort. But with what he's done with the mortgage insurance, there's absolutely no way to avoid the inevitability of prosecution. There's just no way. There's only one outcome. The money is not there. It's going to be very clearly definably traceable, and he's going to go to jail for this because there's no other reasonable outcome.
Listen, there's $3 billion in federal tax liens that have been filed by the IRS. Here's what I don't get. They were filed for 20 and 21. Money was falling out of the sky in 20 and 21. Falling out of the sky. Yeah, God, I mean, this could be 1,000 parts, right? So there's that. There's someone told me, hey, have you looked at your Social Security? The statements that you get? I'm like, no, why would I look at that? Well, you need to go look at it. So I go look at it. For 2020, it says I have zero earnings. And everybody in my office looked it up and it says they have zero earnings. And everybody I've talked to has looked it up and it says they have zero earnings. I don't understand it. Like I did. And
he's a thief. That's it. Like, I'm not judging. Listen, there's a whole bunch of people who made a whole bunch of bad decisions. And before you judge it, if you're watching this right now, this could very well be the company you're working for. This isn't a one-off. Frankly, this has happened before, as Jen and I talked about in 2008, and it's happening again. And I gotta let you know, it ain't over. Okay, this is not over. We're in the middle of the yuck, and you're going to see other companies fall, and the stories are going to be very similar. I got to tell you right now, I had a conversation a moment ago, in the words that you're using, 401k, deferred comp, Social Security, all the same words are being used. So this is a very natural progression of crime. So here in conclusion, I want to ask two things of you. One, how are you helping your clients right now who don't have if they can't make their payments right now, could they accelerate these loans and call the notes due and kick them out of their house? Or what is going to be the conclusion of it? And the second part of it is what advice would you give to a loan officer right now if they have questions about the solvency of the company they're working for?
So client-wise, I don't think they can call and do as long as they continue to make their payments. And so what I did was those 19 people that I have, I contacted every one of them and I sat down with them. I didn't call them. I didn't text them. I didn't email them. I had them come into the office and I sat down with them and I told them what happened. Because here's the deal. He's not in Chillicothe, Ohio. I am. And everybody doesn't think HomeTown Lenders is William Taylor. HomeTown Lenders is Gen Con. So it was up to me to have that conversation with them and let them know what happened. And no matter what, I'm going to help. And I told every single one of them, because their first instinct is to not make the payment, right? And I said, you can't not make the payment, because if you do, then they can accelerate it. So if what he does with the money after you give it is on him, but if you don't uphold your contract, that's on you. So I know it sounds totally anti-productive, but like I've been through enough stuff that I know that if you don't hold your end up, that's going to be on you. So I've told them to continue to make their payments. We have to be able to prove it, obviously, and that's when the state is, for Ohio, they're putting guidance together right now for people what to do. Flagstar filed a lawsuit 2 weeks ago, maybe, for $21 million, I think it is, for their line, because there's obviously issues there, right? So I think that some of these warehouse lines are going to take them over. There's a couple of them that they worked with. I think they're going to probably take them and service those, and I'm assuming hopefully HUD is working with them on that. And these were obviously all government loans that this happened with. So my biggest concern is people want to go, when rates go down, they're going to want to refinance. Or if we've got a veteran that gets disability, then they want their money put back on their principal for their own front. That's not going to, their guarantee fee, that's not going to happen because that money was never paid. So the government's going to have to step in. I mean, they're going to have to. I don't know how they don't. They have to, but when is my question, I guess. So there's that. I think that if you're at a company where something like this happens, you've got to communicate with your clients and let them know what's happening, because it's not their fault, but it's not your fault either. But you're the one that you made money on it, and so you need to still be there for them. So that is my one thing. If you're an employee, man, God, it's so hard. I mean, because I was so entrenched in corporate and I didn't know everything. And I would have sworn on my children that I knew everything, and I didn't. So, man, obviously, if your bills aren't being paid, right, there's a problem. So If they're being paid late, there's a problem. If they're doing anything out of character, there's a problem. And I guess every other company I've been at prior to HomeTown, I had always looked for those things because I went through the crash and I had a company shut down and I had all those things happen. So I was always looking for them. And then when I came here, it was for a long, long time, very, very different. And I think that you can't, God, I hate to even say this, you can't ever let that guard down in this business.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't ever say they won't do that to me, because I'm telling you, anybody that knows me and knows him and knows the situation would have swore bedamned that he would have never cheated me out of 1 red cent. And I would have bet the same thing. So anything that's out of the norm that's going on, that is money to be paid out, is a red flag. And you're like, I would rather now think something's a red flag that's not, and protect my office staff than what happened again. I just would.
So you see things that are out of the ordinary, start asking questions, and if you don't get good answers, start looking elsewhere.
Yes.
Listen, Jen, thank you so much for your time. This sucks that you're going through this. I appreciate you sharing. I think a lot of folks are going to find a comfort in this, and because I think a lot of loan officers are going through the same type of thing. We know realtors are as well.
Yeah.
Good as you hang there, and we'll talk soon.